Not guilty. That is what the jury decided today in Casey Anthony's murder trial. Stunning verdict. And while the young Florida woman was convicted on minor charges in the death of her 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee, really, this was just a total victory for her. It means she's escaped a potential death sentence and might be free in days. The reverberations of the decision are only beginning to be felt. This evening, a member of the prosecution team announced he would retire at the end of the week after a 30-year career. And an attorney for the parents, George and Cindy Anthony, meanwhile, he tells ABC News tonight that the family has received death threats in the wake of this verdict, as if they haven't suffered enough. Here's ABC's Ashley Banfield.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Have you reached a verdict?
It was a swift and shocking end to a courtroom drama that has transfixed the nation.
As to the charge of first-degree murder, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty.
25-year-old Casey Anthony found not guilty on every major count relating to the death of her 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee. The 12 jurors, all of whom declined to speak following the verdict, deliberated for just 10 hours and 40 minutes, most of that over the 4th of July holiday. Anthony did not get off scot-free. The jury did find her guilty on 4 counts of lying to police, but they're just misdemeanors, punishable by a year in jail each. By all accounts, there is no question this verdict is a victory for Casey Anthony's defense team.
What my driving force has been for the last 3 years has been always to make sure that there has been justice for Kaylee and Casey.
From the beginning, both sides tried to keep the focus on the little girl whose doe-eyed image haunted this trial. She's seen here in these videos licensed by ABC News.
It has always been about seeking justice for Kaylee and speaking on her behalf.
The other familiar faces in this courtroom, Casey's parents, Cindy and George Anthony, stoic as the verdict was read.
Not guilty.
They slipped out of court before the judge finished, hiding out upstairs with their lawyer until the crowd had dispersed.
Justice for Kaylee!
What can only be described as an angry circus outside the courthouse was matched by the intense emotions raging inside. But those emotions have been coming to a head for weeks now as a family drama unraveled on the stand. Cindy Anthony weeping as she listened to her 911 call, the one in which she reported her own daughter to the police.
There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car.
And there was Casey's bombshell accusation that both her father, George, and her brother, Lee, had molested her as a child, a charge George Anthony denies on behalf of himself and his son.
It all began when Casey was 8 years old and her father came into her room and began to touch her inappropriately.
It was by this claim she would explain her bizarre behavior after her daughter died, partying till all hours, entering a hot body contest, even getting a tattoo that read, Bella Vita, the beautiful life. Her attorney would claim that George Anthony helped Casey hide the little girl's body after she accidentally drowned. With the death penalty on the table, the tension only mounted as the evidence wrapped up over the weekend. Even the closing arguments delivered over the holiday weekend were unusually contentious, with lawyers from both sides yelling objection.
The bones showed evidence of
Overrule at this point.
And the judge directing that the incest allegation be left out of closing arguments based on a lack of evidence.
There's no facts in evidence or reasonable inference that either Mr. George Anthony or Mr. Lee Anthony molested or attempted to molest Miss Anthony.
That left Casey's defense team arguing that Kaylee's death was just a terrible accident that was mishandled by the family.
If you look at all of the evidence here, it only adds up to one thing, and that is she died by an accident. This was an accident that snowballed out of control.
But the prosecution tried to paint a picture of a young woman who wanted freedom from the responsibility of raising her daughter.
When you use your common sense, you can listen and hear that there's nothing that's wrong with Casey Anthony that can't be explained using 2 words: pathological liar.
Yet the physical evidence remained a problem for the prosecution. That's because Kaylee was missing for so long. It was 6 months before her body was found, and it had simply decomposed too much.
I never ever criticize a jury. Theirs is the task of deciding what to believe.
And so the mystery remains. Was Kaylee Anthony murdered? And if not, how did she die?
The jurors probably focused on cause of death, which is that the prosecution couldn't demonstrate, based on physical evidence, that the cause of death was a homicide, meaning that she definitely died at someone else's hands as opposed to the possibility of an accident. And my guess is that these jurors felt that there was reasonable doubt.
Casey Anthony will be back in court on Thursday for sentencing. She could get up to another year in jail, in addition to the time she's already served. But then she'll likely be free, since an acquittal on murder can never be appealed. Today, George and Cindy Anthony, along with their son Lee, released a statement through their lawyer asking for privacy. It reads in part, "While the family may never know what has happened to Kaylee Marie Anthony, they now have closure for this chapter of their life. They will now begin the long process of rebuilding their lives."
She can never have the life back that she once had. Her child is dead, and her parents have been injured. There is no winner in this. There's only tragedy, and now she has been so reviled that people just aren't going to be able to change that view of her. She'll be back out, but she's going to live in a prison the rest of her life.